Hey there, this is Lisa Princik, and we're back with another episode for the Scaling Deep podcast, another solo where I'm going to share some of my mindset shifts and tips so that you can feel comfortable going ahead with a program at scale, because scaling requires a different mindset than running your business with other types of programs, especially one-on-one work and things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about what I've learned over the last couple years and how I've had to approach things differently so that I can play this game. That's going to sound a little bit like a weird word, but it is a bit of a game. So scaling is a game. It's not just a buy and sale of services and an exchange of value. It is actually gets more technical and it gets more specific. So you need to start to look at things more objectively. And that's why I call it a game, because games are impersonal. If that's one thing we learned when we were a kid, it's that you cannot get obsessed with winning and you cannot worry about losing, because a lot of it is a luck of the dice. And in this case, it's not so much of luck, but it does come down to just doing your best to put forward things and spend time on things that are going to make the biggest difference in the funnel, in the exchange of communication, so that you can grow the business the way you want to, which in a membership or any one-to-many offer is about getting a few more percentages here and there. That will make a big difference between something being profitable and then can even grow even more to something that can't. So the mindset needs to shift around how we, first of all, deal with problems and rejections and failure. We need to get better at taking it less personally and learning how to deal with things faster so that we can move on to fix the thing that was not completely broken, that just needed some changes. And then we can go out there and make a better connection with people because we made those changes. So I was really interesting because this morning I was on a podcast with somebody who's very successful, and she's like way more successful, I'm sure, than I am. I was on her podcast and she asked me the question about her membership funnel. And she said, okay, if I'm thinking that it's not going as well as I want it to, what would you suggest I do? Now, that's a really challenging question to throw out at somebody, because obviously I could randomly say some things, but the real important facts I would not able to access at that kind of level on the fly on a podcast interview. But I was able to come up with something that I thought was really important. And I said, it's probably the positioning, because we can put together our funnels and do them perfectly, add the right number of emails, add the right countdown timers and things to get people to take things seriously. We can pull out all the stops and do a really good job. But if people aren't buying as, say, much as we'd like, or they're not buying the same rate as they have other services or programs that we've put out there, it's likely that they're just not irresistibly compelled to buy it. It might be it's a not now thing, but maybe later, which means that it's just not showing up to them as being the most irresistible thing that they can do, that they wake up at night and they're like, oh, I really should think about buying this thing or joining this membership because the opportunity is going to go away soon and I'll miss out. So we want people to feel that way if they know that they want the thing that we're offering, and we are putting out the transformation in a way that they feel that. So that's an example of like tweaking. So for her, it's not a matter of saying, oh, the program's not working, or I need to just, pour fuel on it. It's a matter of saying, okay, now I need to test a little bit of the messaging. And I suggested, well, you could just do it through traffic ads, like just testing your hook. She's like, yes, you're right. The hooks. It's all about the hooks. And what the hook really is saying that, yeah, you have an amazing offer. It's going to do the same thing, but the getting people to pay attention to it is super important. So, recently with myself, I wanted to grow my business and get in front of more people with my membership method workshop. And that really relies on an ad strategy because I can't keep selling the workshop over and over again to the people who've already not bought it. It's a couple times. I've given them a chance, and the ones who are interested jumped in, and the ones who aren't or want something different, I'm not going to rely on them to keep joining this. So getting it out there in front of colder audiences is the challenge. And now that is a big challenge because when it comes to spending money on ads, it's a big risk if people don't buy and if the ads don't do well. But realizing that it's not that my workshop isn't amazing and provides great value and everyone who attends it is super happy they did and they get a lot out of it. It's that I need to rely on a not super expensive, like more than it's worth or ineffective ad to get people to see it and join. So that comes down to tweaking and testing and not feeling really terrible about it and deciding to not do it and just give up. And that is a mindset shift. So months and months and well, more than months ago, but years ago, I would have said, oh, I just can't do this. So I would have had a mindset around this is too hard. I'm not in the position for it, or I don't know something that I need to know in order to make this work. With a growth mindset and a very useful mindset to entrepreneurship, I maybe feel crappy for a few hours. It's okay to feel shitty because you didn't get the result you wanted, but not for very long and not so deeply that you let it really get you questioning everything, but you're questioning a few things, or you can complain a little bit and say, oh, this is too hard. And why is this not working for me? And I don't get it. But because I keep saying, well, it's working for other people, it gets me into curious mode. And so then I brought it up with somebody, a coach in my mastermind program. And I said, yeah, well, this doesn't seem to be working. And she's like, well, what's the problem? So we looked at the problem and she says, aha, here's the issue. You just need to stop the scroll. You are converting well enough on the landing page or sales page because it's a paid workshop. She's like, you just need to come up with ways to get people to pay attention a bit more and notice it a little bit more. And that's actually a really objective goal. That is not a good or bad or valuable or completely useless like trade-off. It is more just you've got to improve my case, the click-through rate so that more people actually pay attention in the first place and just don't not notice it because of the color of shirt I'm wearing or a few other things like a headline that could be said in a way that captures their attention a bit more. So that is an example of how we can really change our trajectory in our businesses if we're able to address the disappointment or the problem of something not working like we'd hoped it did, like any type of launch or any type of asset we put out there. We want a response. And if we don't get that response, we have to fine tune it to get the response that we want. And that is a quick turnaround. So within a couple of days of my running this ad campaign before my workshop and it not going as well as I wanted it to in order to sustain my workshop strategy, then I had already decided to test it out in a different way. And I might add a couple things to my video ads itself to make it more interesting. And then I will test those out in a very simple way, probably with traffic ads, so that I can come up with an optimized ad that gets me predictable results. So do you see how that mindset shift on picking up and turning it around quickly allows me to continue with the strategy? A slower mindset shift around it would actually still allow me to get back onto the strategy, but with not enough sustainable momentum to make it profitable. So that would work, but it wouldn't necessarily see success. It would see mediocre results because I would drag it out long enough that it wouldn't quite have that efficiency of repetitive, consistent action, which is in this case is running ads continuously and not starting them. Or with an even kind of more challenging or more personalization of the problem, we could go off and just quit the whole thing. And instead of maybe in 6 months from now being like, wow, I'm making money off my workshop and people are joining my membership because of it, that whole thing could have been thrown out. So that's just a way to look at it, an example to think about how, if you really want to do this scaling thing, you have to be prepared to fix your mindset and your reaction that your mind will have based on disappointing results. Because I'm going to be really upfront with you, you're going to get a lot of disappointing results. You're going to have launches where people aren't buying and you're like, what? This program's so good. And they bought similar things in different formats, maybe after a one-on-one call. So all that means is that you have to communicate better. In my case, I need to improve an ad. It's doing stuff like that that has to happen quickly. I have had really terrible results with free events not even a year ago. Boot camps, free workshops didn't even do as well as a paid workshop now because I was tenacious enough. Although I did drag my feet, I'm not going to lie, I was like that middle category. I wasn't like fast to turn around. It took me months to figure a few things out. I changed different things along that way. I had to go all the way back to positioning and sales and all that before I could even get to the point where I was creating really efficient ads, because that comes first. But had I just not kept it up and not stayed curious, then I wouldn't be where I am now, which is running a profitable, successful membership business that doesn't take up all my time and I'm really enjoying. And my members are coming and they're super excited. They're like, I am so glad I found this. This is exactly what I need. And it's making a difference right away in their membership business. So how to do this? Well, I'm not going to dive into all of the foundational stuff. I mean, I will tell you that over a decade ago, over a period of maybe 7 years, I went to 4 10-day silent meditation retreats. I've done tons of personal development work that I did before I even started a business because I just enjoyed it. And I was really looking to unearth my assumptions and be happy and content and feel like I could do what I wanted to do. There's all that stuff, but I'm not going to teach you or tell you about that because that's deeper work and you may not even need it. You can also shift how you do things just by doing things. And the more you do things, you learn to become a little bit less sensitive to failure and pain, where you can observe it. And that can happen just by putting yourself in circumstances where you get familiar with it. And you're like, oh, this is not that bad. I've been down this road before. It's like breakups. The older you get, the more breakups you have, the more you're like, yeah, who cares? I'll be fine. Because you've lived through it. I mean, I can't even remember and don't want to remember what it's like to go through that at 19 or even younger, right? So we want to just get in the habit of or having the support around us to be able to make those changes. Okay. So here's a couple ways. So one, get mentorship so that somebody can validate you and say, hey, your offer is awesome. You're just not selling it very well. Or your positioning isn't super clear. Like I said to the person on the podcast who was amazing and very successful, even though I did not see her positioning, but it just must not be clear enough if she's not getting the sales that she expected to get with a lower ticket offer, given that she sells lots of things. So that is one of the things you would really make a difference. Like hire somebody you trust, either privately or in a group format, to take a look at what you've got and point out the truth about, so you know what to work on first. Because a lot of people say, well, I need more visibility and I need to hire a marketing specialist. I'm like, but you're not converting the sale very well. So you need to focus on that. You've got lots of visibility. You need to focus on sales. So that feedback is invaluable because you can bark up the wrong tree for a very long time, spend a lot of money and get no further ahead. And we've all done that and it's not fun. So getting to the truth of what you need to focus on first is really helpful. Surround yourself by other people who are doing this because of 2 reasons. One, you will see that they're going through all the same stuff too, even if they are super successful and they've sold things at levels that you can't even imagine, they will also be telling you that things are not selling as well as they'd hoped, or something isn't working out and something is also kind of tanking for them. They'll talk about their past and they'll also talk about what's going on right now. And then you can start to learn that, hey, well, it's not just me. Like, I have a great offer. Everything should line up perfectly, but it just isn't. And sometimes it's just not even clear what that is. And it happens to all of us. So that really, really helps. And then the other reason that you would surround yourself by people in a group where there's different types of support is that you just get the training and the tools and the shortcuts to be able to figure out what your gaps happen to be and how you can fill them in step by step. So you will get that from a mentor, and then you will also hopefully have access to the trainings that will help you systematically think through how to prioritize what to improve and what to work on, and guidance on how to do it really well. Because just mentorship doesn't actually take you sometimes through the education process of learning how to do the thing. And when she asked me about my membership today, that podcast interview I was in, I was warm and fuzzy more than anything, just to think about how I offer that inside my membership. Because we're talking a little bit about the engagement levels, and sometimes when we don't hear from people, they're actually doing really well and they're just taking those materials or watching replays or observing the chat, and they're learning just via that, and that we don't always, hear about it. And sometimes we want to know, like, we want the validation that everyone's having a great time. But I also put that forward to say that if you're not hearing from a majority of your students or members, it could just be because you're nailing it. It could be because you got a great combination of real life examples, leadership, like leading by your own example and sharing what you're learning along the way, having enough interesting people in there so that they can learn from each other, and also having excellent trainings. So that's the combination that I have inside the Scaling Deep Society. And I think that's what makes a really big difference when we need to shift how we're feeling into feeling more optimistic so that we can take bolder action and actually start to see the scale systems that we're working on work, right? So it does take a bit of gumption and faith or trust or whatever it is you have, or self-belief, and also excitement in order to leap ahead with things that don't feel like they are figured out in the current moment. So that is what I want to get across today, if anything, is that you've got to shift your mindset if you want to grow a scalable program. How you do it is up to you. There's no major prescription. Just know that it is possible. It doesn't have to happen very quickly, but the faster you're able to get into a growth mindset versus being more fixed is going to help you get further ahead much faster. So if you're looking for more of this kind of support, please subscribe to the podcast. And also, I highly encourage you to hop into my upcoming workshop, The Membership Method, because I'm going to share with you so much about membership design, pricing, content, and all those things that hold us back from launching in the first place, or launching again if we already have a membership because we're afraid to make the commitment to go even bigger. Then you can access that at scalingdeep.com/method. Thanks again for being here, and I'll see you real soon.